What's up, y'all? Welcome to Sunday Soup, the podcast where comfort meets conversation. I'm Lindsay. I'm your host, your chef, your storyteller, and everything else. And every other week, I whip up a delicious soup and pair it with some thought-provoking conversation, maybe some inspiring stories, and hopefully I can make you laugh while you're here. This week, we're going to be taking a trip down memory lane, and we're going to pair it with an alphabet soup, which I think is just a really cute way to pay an ode to my childhood while I talk about my memories with soup. So grab your bowl, get cozy, let's stir this soup up together, and we're gonna take it to the stove. This soup happens to be a pretty quick soup. It's a pretty easy one to make. So for me, this is great. I'm kind of tired from the week. I've done a lot of cooking over the last, I don't even know how long, but for too long. So I'm grateful to be doing kind of a quick soup, something easy that can start my week off right, but then won't take a lot of energy. So of course I've got some celery, some onion. We're gonna add in some potatoes to this soup. I don't eat meat, so you can add in maybe chicken or whatever else you want, but I'm gonna add in potatoes. I'm actually gonna use frozen vegetable mix, which, I don't know, sometimes you don't always wanna cook with fresh vegetables. Sometimes with your groceries, you know they're gonna go bad fast, or maybe you use them on other meals. And who says you can't make soup with a good frozen veggie? So we're gonna use some frozen veggies. Of course, some minced garlic. I've got some tomato paste, some diced tomatoes, some veggie broth, all the seasonings we'll talk about when we get there. And then I also, of course, got some alphabet noodles, because that's the most important part of this soup. So as we talk about going down memory lane, it's kind of funny because we're in this era where nostalgia is everything. There's even a term for it in marketing. If you don't know, I work in marketing, and it's called nostalgia. And literally it's people want to buy stuff that we used to use as kids, like digital cameras, even disposable cameras are back in, record players. Growing up, my dad had this extreme collection of vinyls, and he has a record player. And honestly, growing up, I was it was just something normal to me. I didn't think it was all that cool. And as I got my own place, of course, I had to get a record player. And I started to appreciate a vinyl and appreciate the sound that comes from a record player and just the whole nostalgia piece from it. And it's so funny because a few weeks ago, I got to watch my 16-year-old niece, who is very much Gen Z, like me, but she asked for a record player for Christmas, and my sister bought her a vinyl, and she got to play it on my dad's record player and listen to some of the records he has. He has scores from movies. My dad studied music, so it's not necessarily unusual, but he has a lot of record players. One of them was the Godfather soundtrack, all types of random records, not just your pop culture faves, but some very niche records. So it's really cool just to watch nostalgia come back into trend. I think last week I talked about Inside Out, and in Inside Out there's grandma nostalgia, and I loved her character because it's so real. Nostalgia is everything. And was it Inside Out? I think it was Inside Out. I'm also thinking of the Barbie movie, and just all these nostalgic pieces that are coming back into trend that I think is just, it's so fun. And I don't know, it gives you an appreciation for how you grew up, where you grew up, the things that you enjoyed. I was born in 99. I grew up in the 2000s. I love 2000s nostalgia. I was a Britney Spears girl. I was a Barbie girl. I was all that. So it's nice to see it come back into trend and into form. I also feel the holidays are a perfect time to reflect on life, especially Christmas and New Year's, because you're literally, exiting from one year into the next. And if you want to hear about transitions, definitely check out my last episode where I talked a lot about transitions. But the holidays are the perfect time for me to get into the nostalgic feel, if that makes sense. So now I'm cutting these red skin potatoes just into some small cubes to add into the soup. When I was growing up, when I first learned, I remember first learning how to cook. I was the youngest of three, and my siblings are much older than me. My oldest sister is 10 years older than me, and then my brother is 7 years older than me. So I learned to cook pretty early on because honestly, by the time I came around, my parents were like, girl, we're a little tired, we're much older. Also, I was just a very independent kid. I was always going places, so it helped to be able to make a few meals. I remember like one of the first things I ever learned how to make was an egg in a cup, which I don't know if y'all ever had that, but like my cousin taught me, and you just literally put an egg in a cup, put it in the microwave for like 30 seconds or something, and boom, you have I don't even know what kind of egg it is, honestly. But actually, one of the recipes I made over Thanksgiving was like, you can make a quick egg in it, or was it? I don't remember what I was making it. I was making an egg for something, and it said like, you can just make the egg in a cup. And I was like, oh my gosh, like throwback, I know how to actually do that. Shout out to my cousin. She was also the youngest. And so we would spend a lot of weekends together and learn how to cook an egg in a cup. My mom also taught me how to make spaghetti very early on. So my childhood best friend would always be like, can you make us some spaghetti? Like those were like early meals I learned how to make. And honestly, I think I mentioned this before in Slow Living, I was not a good cook. I could not cook in college. I don't know what happened. It was like I learned how to cook young and I was doing okay. I could make pancakes. I could, make pretty decent meals, especially for a kid. But then I got to college, I got lazy. Honestly, it probably started when I was like 16 or 17, because playing sports, you don't have a lot of time to like cook. So a lot of it was like quick meals. If my mom made me something great, if not like Wendy's, which is bad to say, whatever, Subway, like something was down the street to where we could get it. And we were really busy. Like my tournaments would be all day on Saturday. So we're gone from 4 a.m. to get to the tournament by 7, and not back home if we had won that day until 7, 8 p.m. So it started young where I wasn't cooking a lot. If my mom didn't cook, I was just like, whatever, I'll go to Wendy's, whatever. And then I got my first job, so I had a little bit of money. Actually, my first job was at a soup place. It wasn't Panera, but it was a place called Zoop. I don't even know if they're still open anymore. And this is just like a funny full circle moment for me. But I started out as a cashier, and I would literally serve people soup all day. And then eventually I like worked my way up to food prep and started doing sandwiches and salads for people and learning how to like actually like change the soups and do all those things. So it's kind of interesting that I cook soup so much because literally it was my first job. I ate a lot of soup. Of course, like when you work there, you get free soup, or if there was leftover, like only a cup left after the night, like take it home. But when you were on shift, you got free soup. And then when you were off your shift, you got discounted soup. So we would go all the time, like me and my friends, and get soup and salad because like, oh, we can use Lindsay's work discount. And so my first job literally was at a soup restaurant. So it only makes sense that I am the soup girl and that I love to make soup. I think it reminds me of a small piece of myself, of young me. And these onions have like my nose running. Like I promise you I'm not sick. Although we did just have a snowstorm, so if you're in the South, like, shout out to you for being strong. When I post this, it's gonna be weeks later, so I don't even know why I said that. But anyways, we survived the storm. But I have these veggies prepped. I'm going to go ahead and start getting everything on the stove. This is, like I said, a really quick soup. So we're gonna get stuff on the stove and start making this soup. So let's get this soup going. I'm gonna throw on some butter. I just like butter. I don't even know if you need to have butter in this. You probably could put oil, whatever you like. I'm gonna put on some butter, and then I'm gonna throw in some garlic once that's melted. We'll put in the onions, the potatoes, the celery, and then we'll add in our frozen veggies because those will cook a little bit faster. But something scientific, because I'm a little bit of a nerd and I had to look this up. The brain, I want to say the brain has capacity to store like 2.5 million gigabytes. I don't even know if that's right. Yeah, I wrote it down because I thought I might forget. But like basically the brain has capacity to remember 2.5 million gigabytes of like your memory, which like we don't often remember a lot of it, but like we don't consciously think about it, but it's storing on these memories is what I'm trying to say. That is a lot of space in one body, one like organ to store memory. And it's insane like how much memory we actually do save. Like, well, I would say all the time, like, oh, I have a bad memory. But like, okay, y'all know I'm always gonna compare it to soup. Think about the first week we talked about slow living, being intentional. Last week we talked about watching how you transition in between what you do. This week, I'm gonna challenge you to think about when you're cooking, how much of it is muscle memory? Like how much of the things, like I just scooped that butter out. I didn't have to tell my brain like scoop the butter out. Like, I don't know. I used to work with computer science students, and we would talk about robots and how like we would do this game where like with kids to show them how robots work, we tell them write down how to create a peanut butter and jelly. And they would write like, take the bread out, put in, 2 things of peanut, or like put the nut. They wouldn't even say all that. They would say like, take the bread out, put peanut butter on bread, put jelly on bread, put it together. However, robots don't think like that. Robots think, okay, you said put peanut butter on bread. I'm literally gonna put the jar of peanut butter on bread. And that's even if I can get the bread out, because you never said open up the twisty. And I think we do it in like speech class too. You'll hear it where they'll have you like, they'll teach you how to give proper instruction. And that is such a powerful tool, because when you think about your brain, our brain just naturally do it. I just naturally put the lid on and close this. I didn't have to tell my brain like, pick up jar. Like, like your brain automatically does that. And that is insane to me. That's how much memory is stored in your brain. Like stuff you don't even think about, you're memorizing. So see how much of it is muscle memory. And then you can always tell when you try to cook something new, like something you've never made before. And you're like, I don't know what I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. Like you're moving around like a crazy person. And I know last week I was like, that might be your transition, but it also is just like learning muscle memory and all of these things. So just something to nerd out on. I just wanted to bring that up, and I wanted to challenge you to think about what is muscle memory. I don't know if y'all are like me, but like sometimes when I'm driving and I'm going somewhere I know, like I don't even have to think about it. And then like when I'm coming home from work, I'm like, was that light green? Like, when did I get here? When did I make this turn? Like, I don't know if y'all are like me and you'll like doze off. Me and my mom used to call it autopilot. Like literally your body is just on autopilot naturally. You know where to go. And sometimes it's scary, but like it's really cool how the brain does that. I think the brain is very interesting and will always find a way to like learn about my brain and how it relates to stuff. So I just added in some tomato paste. I'm just letting all this like cook just a little bit before I add in the other stuff, because like I said, those frozen veggies are going to cook fast. So I don't want them to be like rubbery or soggy or nothing. So we're gonna let this sit for a little bit. Now, I also don't know if y'all, I'm sure a lot of people have this testimony, this story. Soup was like a sick food. Like honestly, when I was a kid, I really don't remember eating soup much except for if I was sick. Like I don't know, when you were sick, everybody was like, oh, eat some soup. Like the broth is like good for your body. It gives you fluids. It's got vegetables in it. Like it builds your immune system. So like my early memories of soup are probably when I was sick. I also remember my dad really loving chili, and I had posted this and somebody was like, does chili count? I think it was Nadia. She was like, does chili count? Shout out to Nadia. Chili definitely does count as a soup. My dad loved chili growing up, specifically Wendy's chili. I don't know if you've ever had Wendy's chili, but it actually, this is loud. Wendy's chili is kind of good. Like they kind of did their thing with that one. I just added in the diced tomatoes, by the way. But my dad like loved Wendy's chili, so we would get it a lot, and especially in like the winter. And I remember one year our church had a chili cook-off for like, I think it was for the men, And so everybody was like supposed to bring, you know, their own chili that they made. And my dad brought Wendy's chili. Now, I can't remember if he like deceived them and had them believe that he made that chili. I doubt it because he's just very honest. But he did. He brought Wendy's chili, which was so funny because the whole purpose of a chili cook-off is that you make chili. But we ate a lot of Wendy's chili growing up. All that to say that. And so that's like definitely something that like resonates hard in my memory when it comes to chili. I remember the first time I made chili and it was actually good. I was shocked. Okay, and maybe I'm different, but like I had never been making soup before. Like this is a new thing for me. Like within the last few months, I just started making soup. Before, I would always go buy soup from like Panera or, you know, anywhere else that had soup, like a cute cafe. Also, I would like buy it in the can. And recently, like I learned that like honestly soup is not that hard to make, and I started making it. So I don't know about y'all, but like I never made soup. So like comment down below if you've made soup before, or if it's something you do often or not. It really is an easy meal. But I'm curious because I had never known if that was really a thing. I don't ever remember us making soup growing up besides putting the canned soup in a bowl and putting it in the microwave with some extra seasoning. We would always add extra seasonings because it wasn't right in the can. But like I don't remember. I don't know why my dog does this every time I'm filming. I don't remember. So I'm gonna add in a little bit more veggie broth. This is definitely gonna be a soup that has to like simmer for longer than some of those other soups, just because there's a lot that goes into it. And I want to make sure like the soup to vegetable ratio is pretty even and balanced. There's nothing worse than when you don't have enough broth, but you have a lot of filling or whatever you want to call it, and vice versa. This did not open well. So I'm just gonna add a little bit more to get that ratio right, because I don't want to be eating a bunch of, like, love the vegetables, but like also the broth is really important. Cool. So I'm gonna add in just a little more tomato paste, and then I'm gonna throw in some seasonings, and then we're gonna throw in the alphabet noodles, because those should not take very long to cook. They're very, very tiny. And they only take a few minutes to cook, so I kind of want to wait for those. So for seasonings, of course, I'm gonna add garlic and onion powder. I told y'all last week that is a staple in my life, so you know, do with that as you will. I'm gonna add in oregano. Oh, it's definitely starting to like boil. I can hear it. Some thyme, which I know I'm also gonna add in Italian seasoning, which has both of those, but a few other things too. And then some pepper. This is gonna be a really good soup for me because I'm just not feeling that well all of a sudden. Like, I don't know, I was feeling okay. It's been really cold this last weekend and I'm starting to not feel that great. So I think this is gonna be a great soup for my body. Again, as like a healing thing and just for my mental. It's been a busy kind of week, and there's just been a lot going on, and so I've just been a little bit heavier, I noticed. And even today I was like, ooh, I gotta get on here, I gotta talk, I gotta do my thing, but like I'm also really committed to this, and I'm glad I did. But sometimes life is heavy, sometimes things are just not, I don't know, life happens, things happen, whatever, however you feel about it is fine. And sometimes you just need a quick, easy meal to like get you through the night. Like I needed something that was frozen that I could throw on. It just happened that I was making this, happened that I was in this mood, but like it's perfect for me because I really am kind of like low. So definitely need this good vibe, this easy vibe. And that's really okay. Sometimes you can like adjust and adapt and change up what you're gonna do to like fit your mood, especially with cooking. Because cooking is a lot of work, and when I'm tired, the last thing I want to do is go make a full like 5-star, 5-course meal. I just want something quick, easy, and yummy. So I've been cooking a lot too. So I think that's partly why I'm like, whoo, don't want to make anything else. So the soup is starting to roll a little bit, and I'm gonna stir it. It looks really good. The vegetables smell really yummy. But I think also when thinking about like going down memory lane and talking about memory in the brain, social media has made it really, really hard to remember things. Like, I'll be honest, we're like in an instant gratification kind of state in our world, and like everything is quick. I can't even watch videos at their regular length. Like, I am quick to 2x speed a video, get to the point. And so it's definitely interesting, like from a social media perspective, as somebody that works in, you know, media and communications. It's also interesting from a podcast perspective, as people's attention spans are shorter and they just don't have the capacity to take in a lot of long-form content. I definitely think about those things. I definitely acknowledge those things. I think something that we need to start doing just as humans so that we can continue to evolve and live long, is to like practice memorization. Like, we used to have to know the phone numbers of who we were gonna call. Like, I don't know, like when I was in school, I had to know my mom's number if I was gonna call her. And I don't believe kids nowadays like have that experience. It is very much like click the button and it's there, or learning your address for emergency purposes, or knowing, I don't know, just actively using your memory. That's not really a thing much anymore, because we have GPS and we have, you know, technology at our fingertips that'll do things very, very quickly for us. And so I will even strive to, like, if I'm going certain places and I've been there a lot, or even if I've been there a couple times and I kind of know the route, I will literally just drive it and get there. Like, I'm not going to use my phone. I'm not going to use GPS, because in the event my phone stops working, in the event something happens, in the event, like, I just want to strengthen my brain and my memories so that I can live long. Those are things that we need to be practicing. So, like, think about parts of your life that you can practice from memorization, and like memorize things and do things without having to use your phone always. It's so bad. Like, if I don't write something down sometimes, didn't exist, won't happen. Especially at work, like when you're moving, and you're from meeting to meeting to meeting, like, if it didn't get written down, it ain't gonna happen. And that's a little bit scary. And it definitely, I know it scares the other generations that I work with, because we are definitely in a multi-generational state in which we're working with a lot of people who grew up a lot of different ways, and they're like, what do you mean you have to write it down in your reminders to know that that's the next task? Even though some of them have kind of adapted that too and gotten used to it. So it's definitely something that I think is worth practicing and worth trying to change about yourself, or at least like trying to strengthen. The brain is a muscle. You have to use that muscle, and memory is one way that you can do that. I do be playing them brain games and those word games and like all those things, like keep my brain strong. Okay, so we're gonna try some of this. It's really hot. Ooh, that's really good. It's so like comfort food-ish. I don't know what the word is. Very comfort food vibes. I'm gonna add in some more tomato though. And I'm gonna like season it even more, because I did add a lot of broth, and while broth is great, it don't mean it's seasoned. And vegetables are great, but that don't mean, you know, that don't mean they got the flavor you want. And now, do be careful. Like, you know, if you got issues with salt, please do not be adding a ton of seasonings. Like, you can eat something that is a little less salty. I am very sensitive to salt, so I tend to not eat a lot of salt just in general. Or when something is really salty, I can always tell. I'm always like, oh. So, as much as I use seasonings, I am very mindful of how much I am adding to it, because I don't like things over salted. So I know that those potatoes are gonna need some more time. So I'm going to crank this up a little bit, let it roll, and then I'll see you. Actually, let's do another taste test to see where we are now before we part ways to let this do its thing. Okay, I don't want any veggies, I just want the broth to see. Ooh, that's really hot. That's much better. Okay, I like that. So I'm gonna let this do its thing for a little bit and then we'll be back. I just checked it, it's still on here, rolling pretty high. Still needs a few more minutes for the potatoes. Potatoes take a while to cook, even when they're cut. So I'm just letting it do its thing. Checked it, the potatoes still need a few minutes, so I'm letting it just roll really high. Potatoes take a while to cook even when they're cut, so that doesn't worry me. That's pretty standard. Something I wanted to talk about too with memory and just going down memory lane in general is like this notion of the ripple effect. And it might be the same thing as the butterfly effect. I don't know. You know, TikTok be throwing around a lot of words that I have to keep up with. But like, I definitely know the ripple effect and that like every decision you make like leads to another decision. And I believe that like our lives are planned out, you know, before us. Like I told you before, I'm a Christian. So I do believe that like there is a plan and a will for our life. But it's so interesting how like decisions you make lead you to like different parts of your life. Like had I never went to the college I went to and went to the one that like had given me a lot of money but I didn't really like, I don't know if I would have met my best friends. Like I probably would have, but it would have been very different. Like we would have met in different parts of our lives or something. Like I don't know, it's just so interesting how like every little thing adds up. And I was thinking about this as I was thinking about going down memory lane and like all the decisions that have led me to where I am now and just who I am. And it's funny because as a kid, I always said I wanted to be a business owner, and I like had business cards at like age 6, and it was a nail business and I was doing everyone nails. And sometimes you'll see me with my nails done. And it's because I do it myself. Like I like to enjoy that. And it's like a little part of me. And like growing up at my grandparents' church, I always helped with the media team. So I would be on camera. I started out on camera. I trained on camera, knew all the cameras, knew all the angles, knew how to, you know, follow people, whatever. And then I gradually, you know, graduated, and then I would be in the control room and I started learning how to do scriptures and putting them on the screen in real time and like changing the backgrounds and doing all those things. Then I graduated from that to control, and I would be on the headset calling out like, okay, camera 1, you're going to be live, camera 2, you're on deck. And then, you know, I would call out when they were live and learn how to switch on a switchboard. And it's funny because like I just thought it was something fun that I did as a kid at church because that's where the fun people were. To me, that's where the fun was. And now I work in PR and communications, and now I have a podcast, and I like to film stuff, and I like to like do all of those like media communication things. I also was in news class, or I was a part of the news team in my 8th grade in middle school. And like basically the news team was, we had a news channel through our middle school every week. I don't know, I think it was every week. And we as students ran it. So we had anchors, and we had like story writers and prompt writers, and I would do the voiceover for stories that I created. And I remember one of my teachers asking me to be an anchor, and I was like, absolutely not. Like I was so scared that like I would embarrass myself, and it was very dumb. I really wish I would have had that opportunity, but like even being in news, I never thought this would be a career of mine. I don't work in news, but I still work in like PR and communications and marketing, and I think it's just so interesting how like that ripple effect of like things you experience very young end up being a part of who you are as you're older. I remember really loving my English literature class. I took like dual credit in high school, and one of the classes that I really loved was one of my dual credit English classes because of what we were able to write, how we were able to express ourselves, and he challenged us. And then I went into college thinking I wanted to be a doctor. Lo and behold, I didn't do that, obviously. But it's just so funny how like these things, I'm just scraping these noodles off the bottom. These things like come up and become a part of who you are as you get older. And like, I don't know if as a kid I didn't pay attention to that. I didn't think like I should get this experience because one day I'm going to be in media and news and like I'm going to need this. Also, I don't think you need the whole bag of noodles. I didn't think like, duh, they're going to get bigger. There are a lot of noodles in here. So you do not need that whole bag. Learn from my mistakes. but I'll have it for the next few days, and that's fine. Like I said, I genuinely eat the soups that I make, so like it has to taste good and it has to like be good, because otherwise I'm gonna be sad. It like thickened up a lot. I think the noodles like soaked up a lot of the veggie broth. So I'm probably gonna add more, and I might even add some tomato sauce that I have, because I'm like working on the fly, but like they soaked up a lot of this broth. There's still some, but I like my soup to be brothy. Like I would much rather have a big pot and the ratio is balanced than not. Also, something I want to point out is I use frozen vegetables, which is why I had to use so much more seasoning. I think with fresh vegetables, you get obviously much more of a punch, much more flavor, but with frozen vegetables, you definitely have to use a little more seasoning because they've been frozen. They don't have the same level of flavoring. This is so hot. Oh, that's so good. It's like a veggie soup. Okay, I'm trying to get a potato to see if it's done. Yep, they're done. So I'm just gonna add in just a little more veggie broth just to balance out these noodles, because they absorb a lot and I was not expecting them to grow so big. They were so tiny. They're kind of like macaroni noodles. I should have stopped when I first stopped pouring, but I kept going. I just added a little bit, and that's honestly much better. So I'm gonna put this in a bowl, and I'm gonna see you on the other side. All right, so we've got some yummy soup here. I'm just gonna give it a little taste test. The alphabet noodles are so cute. Like, this is so making my inner child happy. Like, this is perfect. This is just what I need while I take down my Christmas tree. To be fair, it is January. When y'all see this, I don't know if it'll be January, but like, don't judge me. It's so hot. It's like so warm and comforting, and I'm gonna put some crackers in it and enjoy. Thanks for listening to me yap. Think about your memory. Think about using your memory. Don't lose your memory. I mean, I hope that like as you make this soup or as you watch this podcast, you're also able to reflect on like things that have happened in your life that have led you to this point that you are today. Like, comment, please subscribe, please share, please message me and let me know what you think. Any topics you want me to talk about, I would love to hear from y'all. To add on to my list and my repertoire or whatever. I don't know. I'm just talking, but definitely like reach out and let me know what you think. All the love and support has been amazing, and I will see y'all next week on Sunday Soup. I'm pretty sure I'm doing a mushroom and wild rice soup. And we're gonna talk about, let me look, because I don't even remember. Like, I'm telling y'all, my brain is tired. I've been napping so much. Let's see, what is next week? Oh, next week, join me as we talk about the power of small wins. I think I've mentioned it a few times, like celebrating small wins. So we're really gonna talk about in-depth small wins, what those are, and we're gonna pair that with a mushroom and wild rice soup, which is one of my faves. Like I said, I don't eat chicken, so I don't do chicken and rice, but mushroom and wild rice is a chef's kiss. I have made it before. So it's gonna be even better than the first time. And yeah, we'll see you there.